Good morning, moms of Master Books. I pray you're having a blessed day and enjoying your time with your kids in your school. Hey, today I want to give a word of encouragement. If in the homeschool movement, I've always been impressed at the number of moms who have taken their careers and their educations. Some of the most brilliant people we've ever met come from the homeschool community that have taken their time and set that aside to devote themselves to training and discipling their children. And sometimes, right, we all have a bit of a desire to be significant, to have a life that meant something, to have purpose in our lives. And when we're home surrounded by piles of laundry and dishes and kids that won't stop asking for things, it can seem like this could possibly not have any significance. So there's a story that I've come across recently that really stood out to me, and it's of the printing press, the Gutenberg printing press, Johann Gutenberg. And because I say his name a number of different ways, I'm just going to call him Johnny Guts for right now. So Johnny Guts in, let's see, what was the year? I think it was 1455, he actually went and started producing a printing press. And it took him 3 years to develop this, or to build this press. He builds this press, and then he begins printing the first Bible. Now, before the printing press, there were about 30,000 books in Europe. And every book either had to be handwritten, or it had to be, there was a different type of where they would actually cut it out and then smear ink into the gaps, kind of like a stencil. They would do something like that. So he invents this printing press, and he begins then taking the Bible and turning it into, printing the Bible. It takes him 3 years to complete the printing. There were 50,000 pieces of paper used, 1,286 pages. Every page had 42 lines. There was no punctuation and no indentation, a lot like texting today. Let's see, the weight of the Bible was 14 pounds, and we still have 21 in existence today. So he creates this over a 3-year period, during which he expends his money and has financial hardships and difficulties and whatnot, and completely at a loss, he continues moving forward. Now, if you can imagine, so every piece of page has 2,500 pieces of type set into it and screwed into it. And if you YouTube the Gutenberg press and you actually look at what it took, where they get the ink on the rollers and then they put it all over the press, and you see what process that actually took, just every page that he did. And he only printed his first run was 180 copies. So 3 years to make 180 Bibles, every one needing 2,500 pieces set meticulously in place and then printed. And you think about this, so he spends 3 years doing this, and you often wonder, what is his motivation? He spent his finances. I think the debt was called in while he was printing the Bible. There's different accounts that maybe he even lost the press at one point. So he goes through all this. Now, from that moment that he produced those Bibles, though, the world changed. Suddenly, the printed word we became able to mass produce the printed word, and it began to go out. Martin Luther embraced the technology and had a number of Protestant Bibles come forward. Let me read this. The impact of the Gutenberg printing press was immeasurable. It caused nothing less than a dramatic social, cultural revolution. The sudden, widespread dissemination of printed works, books, tracts, posters, papers gave direct rise to the European Renaissance. The availability of the Bible to be read not only by Latin priests, but in languages of common people led inevitably to the Protestant Revolution, the Age of Enlightenment, the development of modern science, and universal education. In other words, everything that has led to human progress and advancement in the modern world goes back to this printing press, where all of a sudden information suddenly became more easily available. Mark Twain said, "What the world is today, good and bad, it owes to Gutenberg. Everything can be traced to this source, but we are bound to bring him homage, for the bad that his colossal invention has brought about is overshadowed 1,000 times by the good with which mankind has been favored." So I think about him sitting in his workshop typing and putting the press in, the pieces in, and pulling the bar and printing these pages. And I wonder, and I ask myself, do you think he realized that what he was doing, his invention, and then going through and printing this 180 Bibles, do you think that he thought this would change the world? Do you think that he realized the significance of what he was doing? And my guess is that he probably didn't realize that this invention would have the impact that it has on culture. And I would relate that to your homeschool in that in what you're doing today, do you believe that what you're doing, the mundane, the little things that are happening today, do you believe that you have the potential through the training of your children and through what you're doing in discipling and raising up a world changer, do you believe that you have the potential to change the history of the world and to affect mankind? I would like to encourage you to believe that this culture of homeschooling isn't just about protecting our children. This is a culture where we are also raising world changers, and they are set apart. If I would encourage you to read Daniel, the story of Daniel and his friend Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how they were set apart in the culture, and it was they prospered. And I believe that the homeschool movement is a remnant that has been set apart. And what we are doing today, as mundane as it seems, listening to the struggles that our kids have, and just the challenges of being a homeschool parent, particularly a homeschool mom, I would just encourage you that, like Gutenberg, who was having to just sit there and put 2,500 pieces into his press and continue going through the same thing, that mundane was also laying the groundwork for a much larger future success. Yesterday, if you caught Eric Hovind when he was in with me, and he said that, which is really, I've been chewing on a lot about, you don't measure a man by his children, you measure him by his grandchildren. Wow, what a thought. And for each of you that are investing today into your families and into your homeschool, I would just encourage you that even in the mundane, to think about everything you're doing having the same impact as what this printer did in the 1400s, and that significance, in that we may never see it. He didn't see it. He died before he saw the success of the press take off. I told you that there were 30,000 books in Europe. 50 years after the press was invented, there were more than 12 million books in Europe. So 30,000 before the press, almost all hand printed. Afterwards, 50 years later, 12 million books. Most of those were the Bible. And suddenly, the average person had the opportunity to read the scriptures without needing somebody to interpret them, and it was more easily accessible, and the information became more easily accessible. So that's the kind of impact he had, and I doubt he knew it in his shop going through those mundane tasks of printing the Bible that he would change the world. So my encouragement to you is the same. Today, ask yourself, do I believe that what I'm doing could change the history of the world and change the history of mankind? I do believe it is. And I look forward to seeing that hope realized, if not here, sometime from eternity. All right. I hope that's a blessing. We are praying that the Lord will bless your school. This time of year is fun with the holidays coming, but it's hard to keep balance with the kids in school and whatnot. It's fun to watch each of you adjusting and making master books your own and helping to fit it into your homeschool. All right. Well, God bless you guys, and thank you for being part of this community. We are honored and privileged to serve you. Talk to you later.